Okay, my loves. I know there are a lot of you that are out there that are really wondering, how do I even set boundaries anymore? Maybe you didn't grow up with great boundaries. Maybe boundaries weren't really modeled well for you, or maybe you were told that you cannot have boundaries. Maybe you're tired of being gaslighted in your relationships, and you're tired of feeling crazy all the time and guilty for trying to make a difference in your life. If this is you, then I want you to come schedule a call with me. Let's chat about the Unashamed Image Program. The Unashamed Image Program is geared towards you specifically. I am going to be helping you in our next upcoming session of the Unashamed Image. I am personally going to train you how to not feel crazy when someone is gaslighting you, how to be able to stand your ground, to keep your boundaries intact, and to also see through the bull crap. I am also going to be teaching you how to set really confident boundaries that you can really rely on. And I'm going to help you communicate them in a way that really makes sense. Basically, I'm going to help you live a life free of shame and on your terms. If you are ready and you are done feeling all the shame and guilt for trying to set boundaries, if you are not willing to live another moment the way you are right now and in somebody else's shadow, then this is the time to schedule that call with me. It's completely free, no pressure, just love, just support. Go to www.erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. Scroll down the page to where it says, Let's Chat About Working Together. Click on that button and it'll take you to my booking page. If you're ready to live the unashamed life, schedule that call. Let's get you in the Unashamed Image Program, my loves. From my heart to your heart. Bye. Welcome to the other side of the struggle. This is a podcast where we talk about trauma, how to heal it, and then how to take it and use it to unlock your mission and your potential, and to use it to live your very best dream life. When you're dealing with betrayal trauma, it can be hard to know how to heal it, how to stop the pain, and to know what your next steps are to take in your own life. And these are the questions that we try to answer here. Trauma has the ability to rob us of our joy and identity, which is why it's so miserable to experience. But with the right tools and with the right mindset, we can totally reclaim that joy and even use this trauma to strengthen ourselves, so that way trauma does not knock us off of our joy again. Living your dream life should be a non-negotiable, but trauma tends to try to negotiate that with you. And even though trauma is not something that we will completely ever be free of in our life, the pain is negotiable. This is why I created Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching and this podcast, is because I want my listeners, I want my clients to truly live free from the prison that trauma can put you in. I want you to live on the other side of the struggle. Trauma can be a beast. It has the potential to get you to believe things about yourself that just aren't true. Things like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm not beautiful, and the list goes on. And each one of those beliefs cause a crack in our hearts. And I get it. going through my own betrayal trauma, these were a lot of the things that I used to think, plus many others. So when I had the meditation to see each one of those cracks as a way of healing, and not just of healing a flesh and blood heart, but the ability to heal a flesh and blood heart to gold, was transformational. And now I want to give you that exact same transformation for free. Pick up my Heart of Gold meditation. It is absolutely free, and I want to see it give you the exact same transformation that it did me. So check out the description below. Pick up the Heart of Gold meditation. The link is right there in the description. And while you're at it, don't forget to click on the Calendly link above to make sure that you schedule some one-on-one time with me to help you personally get through your betrayal trauma. All right, with that, let's listen to this week's episode. Welcome back to the other side of the struggle, you guys. Oh, this week we've got a good, just a really juicy topic to talk about. We are talking about creating your dream life. And yeah, that's kind of a big one. That's really important to know, because if you're dealing with the mire of trauma, then you're definitely not living your dream life. You're too focused? Is that the word I'm looking for? You're too busy being in the muck and the mess. And that's no judgment. I was there not too long ago myself, and I just remember wanting my dream life, but feeling like it was totally out of my reach. Like, it wasn't something that I could actually create. I had to wait for other people to stop creating the trauma in my life before I could actually heal and create what it was that I wanted to create. And I want you to know that is a lie. It is totally a lie. Living our dream life is actually a decision that we get to make, and a decision that we just don't go back on. And like, the first thing it takes is understanding what that is, like what it actually looks like. What does life without the chains that trauma puts on you, what does that look like? And excuse me, but getting clear with that question really is the key to start unlocking from like the bridge from where you are at now to where you want to be. And that's actually the key to unlocking a lot of questions. It's actually one that I am using right now to take my business to the next level. And my business will reflect me. And what I mean by that is I have to think about like what my next level of person looks like. What does she dress like? How does she show up? How does she act? What are her passions? One of the things that I'm learning to be more intentional with as a six-figure business coach is, a six-figure coach, having a six-figure business, is that I have to be really, really intentional with my time. So if I have time for my business, then I am focused on my business. If I have time for my family, I am dialed in with my family. And
I also have to have time for me and be dialed in with me. We have to be super intentional with the way that we want to spend our time and our mentality, because if we're not, we're kind of allowing life to dictate to us how it should be lived, and I'm not okay with that. Giving the reins of my life over to just life kind of left me feeling a little bit broken, bruised, all over the place, and yeah, I'm not okay with that. I wanted to be a far more active player in my life. Like, I wanted to be the main role and not the person that was constantly being acted upon. And so that meant I had to be super intentional. Now, the last few months, we've been talking about boundaries and what boundaries look like, the main boundaries I set. And here's a really big boundary that I created for my life. And that is that if I'm going to heal from trauma, or if I'm going to make that 6-figure business coach happen, or if I'm going to get these clients, if I'm going to achieve my goal, then that meant I had to have intentional time for my goal. And as I've been shifting things in my business and going from divorcing the addiction to living the unashamed life, which is what I'm teaching now, one of the main pillars is this whole idea of an intention. And intentional boundaries, intentional direction, intentional mindset. Like, you have to be super intentional in order for the winds of trauma to stop blowing you around. So, for example, I want you to think about what life would look like if there's this giant windstorm and you're caught up in it, because this is exactly what trauma feels like, right? You're caught up in a windstorm and you are being blown all over. And it takes intention for you to lean in, which is another one of those pillars, but lean into this windstorm. You literally have to dig your feet into the ground, lean super forward, and sometimes you have to claw your way forward. That doesn't mean that the wind isn't going to come and blow you back, but what it does mean is that you have to keep digging in and moving forward. And that's the same with creating your dream life. You have to have time and be super intentional with your mindset and with the direction you want to go. If you don't have that intention, then you kind of end up getting stuck in the trauma, which is why it's so sucky. I have women tell me all the time, I just wish that I could find myself again. It feels like I am nothing but this trauma. And I get that. I totally do. But the one question I ask them is, so how much time are you taking a week to actually actively change that? They think that they take a ton of time because focusing on the trauma does take a lot of time and energy. But that's more or less just focusing on what it is you don't want than what it is actually focusing on what you do want and knowing what your next steps are. So one of the things that I do is I invite them first to consider, well, what would your dream life look like? The life that you have ultimate control over. You cannot say, well, my dream life would look like my husband not having a porn addiction. Yeah, I get that. But that's still giving the result of your life over to your husband or whoever it is that's creating this trauma. And you and I both know that they are not capable and they should not have that level of responsibility in your life. If they're creating trauma in your life, they are not capable to create the goodness, but you are. And so this is what I mean by being intentional. You have to sit back and look at what you have the ability to create. Maybe and it's like what we talked last week with Jenny, finding that home base. Maybe it's just keeping your workspace, your desk clear. Maybe it's making sure your pencils get put back. It's just something small. For me, it was really paying attention to my thoughts, and which is the thing that I'm going to really recommend to you, is that if you're dealing with trauma and you are ready, like really ready to create your dream life, then your home base, I would recommend, should be your thoughts. If you're not aware of the things you are thinking, like super aware, and you're not aware of the way those thoughts are making you feel, are they making you feel happy or are they making you feel pretty low? Are they giving you excitement for life or are they causing despondency and depression? What are your thoughts creating for you? If they're creating that despondency and depression, the chances of that thought being a lie are really good. Really good. But it feels like truth because our results are reflecting that. Now, the adversary, he knows this. He knows that we're going to take our results in our life and we're going to say, oh, that's true because that's been my experience and that's not what I want for you, right? That's not what I wanted for myself, for crying out loud. It's literally living a lie. Just because our results say one thing doesn't mean it's what's actually true. As a matter of fact, it's actually, if it's causing that gut sinking feeling, that depression, that despondency, it's actually more likely to be a lie because life is meant to be lived in joy. If you look through the scriptures, it often talks about how God's whole mission and purpose for us is for us to have joy. And so if we're not experiencing that, then our results are actually simply feedback, not the truth, just feedback. And so if we're constantly living in that depression and despondency, we truly are living the results of a lie. So take a look at what's true. If you were to actually write out what you hear when those lies come up, the chances are that you'll find an opposite, okay? Now, so for example, like one of the things I kept hearing was, I must be totally ugly. I must be fat. I must be disgusting because my husband doesn't want me. Everybody in my life seems to hate me. I must be the black sheep. I must not be lovable. Well, no. everything about those sentences is untrue. Because you have to weigh that against the fact that we were created in the image, by the image. We were created by God. So he had something to adore. He created us so he could adore us. He loves being in love with you. And so if he created you to be in love with you, well, then those sentences don't make sense. So what's the opposite? What is the opposite of those sentences? Being fat and ugly. Well, okay, you know what? I'll be honest. I've got some extra weight to lose. I'm not ashamed of it, because that weight has created 6 kids who, if you've been a listener to this podcast, you have probably heard in the background once or twice. I'm not ashamed of that fact that I have weight to lose, that I'm a mom of 6 kids, and you're going to hear them in this podcast once in a while. That doesn't make me any less professional. It truly doesn't. It makes me human. And the truth of the matter is my body has the ability to do. My body gives me the ability to act, not just influence. If you think about the adversary, he is just a spirit. He doesn't have the ability to turn on and off lights or to go out and actually do the things he wants to do. No, he has to influence us to do that. But yet we have the ability to influence and the ability to do because we have a body. So if we're ashamed of that body, it actually causes us to be less intentional with that body because we don't see it as an acting tool. That's not good. And that's exactly where the adversary wants us, because if we're not proud of this ability to actually act with this body of ours, then he has the ability to be more influential over us and to cause us more of that misery and joy, and to just literally keep piling lie upon us until we feel pretty darn low. So the truth is the exact opposite. I am not fat and ugly. I am gorgeous. I have a body that rocked having 6 kids. It gets me out of bed every single day to coach these beautiful, beautiful ladies and men that are listening to this podcast right now. It gives me the ability to teach kids online how to do math and to enjoy it. It gives me the ability to be present with my kids, to let them know that they are precious and loved and beautiful and needed in this life. And it gives me the ability to do so much more. You have no power with me. Get behind me. And if you think about the Savior and the way that he handled the temptations that the adversary threw his direction when he was being tempted, when he was doing his 40-day fast, he always spoke the opposite of what the adversary said. He spoke the truth. Men shall not live by bread alone. It is written that thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength.
So how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. They've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries, to really understand what your role is in the boundary, and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful, go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really, really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
Get behind me. You have no place with me. Go back and listen to that story and the way that the Savior actually handled the adversary. It's powerful. And the thing is you have the same ability inside of you. You truly do. So let's tackle another one. I am not lovable. Well, we know that's not true. Yeah, there might be people in our lives that definitely reflect that. But if we were created for the sole purpose for the Lord to have something to adore, well, then we are adored by the greatest being in the universe. The one who created the universe just for us. The fact is that we are adored. I am adored. And even if you don't believe in God, you can adore yourself. Just because someone else is showing up in a craptastic way doesn't mean you have to show up that way for you. What it means is you get to adore yourself. I am adored because God loves me and because I love myself. I love myself enough not to believe that lie. Get behind me, you have no place with me. These are really powerful things, and they are actually the things, the mindset that will get you to your dream life. It'll help you to start actually knowing what it is that you want to dream and start to give you the ability to dream more. When we are stuck with these limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not beautiful, I'm not deserving, and we're not actually taking the time to write down those thoughts and flip them and say the opposite out loud. Your voice is the most believable thing to you, and it is actually a very powerful tool of creation. So if you're not saying these things out loud, you're not lending it the most powerful potential and force to get you to create something different. Use your voice. Say the truth out loud. It's powerful. And doing that actually helps you feel like you can create something more. Believing the lies just robs you more and more and more of what you already have, which is why trauma feels so miserable. And the opposite of living a traumatic life is living your dream life. So what does it look like? What does it look like to dream? And what are the thoughts that are holding you back from creating that dream life? It's really important to sit down and look at that fully. You have to be intentional, though, with your time and get out a notebook. Sit down, get a pen, and start writing out like the thoughts that are inside of your head and your heart. And decide which ones are serving you and which ones are hurting you. Because it's those ones that are hurting you that will actually lead you to your mission and your purpose. Believe it or not, they actually do. Because they are hiding the truth. The adversary has planted them there to hide the truth from you. But if you actually flip them, the truth is underneath that lie. And understanding that truth, speaking it out loud, even though it might not feel true at the moment because your results are saying something else, the results are the feedback. That's it. You get to take those results and change them. If results are something that can be changed, then it's not fact. It's just feedback. So, taking those thoughts, flipping them for the truth, and then saying them out loud is going to help your brain actually think of different possibilities and how to create those different possibilities. And to also help you start realizing what boundaries you need to put in place and using the boundary blueprint to help you. Okay? Yep, you can hear my little one in the background right now. So get really intentional this week. I want you guys to really be thinking about what it is you're creating, what it is you want to create, and the thoughts that are holding you back. Because that is the road you've been taking to get where you're at now. Though that is literally those mile markers. You've got to take a different road to get to where you want to be. Okay, my loves. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's dive in. Let's create your dream life. You deserve it. And you also deserve to show up in that influencer energy that you truly are. Okay? All right. Next week, we are going to be talking about using the self boundaries to create our dream life. And if you remember, those self boundaries are the love boundary, the forgiveness boundary, the trust boundary, and we talked about the trust boundary with Kyson, and the organization boundary, which we talked with Jenny Layton about. And then we're going to have some other fantastic speakers in this podcast coming soon. So, great work, you guys. I will see you next week. Bye. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna be